Welcome to Let's Accelerate. I am Michael Nichols. I have Uwe Kirchner with me. We are from Bosch Management Consulting Business Model Innovation. Today we have a very special guest, Javier Gonzalez. He is the president of Robert Bosch Iberia and he's responsible for the HR activities in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So one of the reasons we thought Javier would be a great guest for our podcast is the following. Often when you're doing innovation in a corporate context, barriers tend to pop up, and those barriers are often not the technical aspects of the innovation. Sometimes they're the customer segments, we all know that, maybe you can't find the right value. But often innovation is actually an organizational problem. The organizational aspects can overwhelm corporate innovation projects. And that's why we thought we would invite Javier today to get his insights into how we can better think about organizational structure when we're talking about innovation.
So, first of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts, my errors, my expectations with you. You say innovation is mainly driven, or the barriers for innovation are mainly driven by human aspect, not so much technical aspect. When I look at our corporate slogan, "Invented for Life," or in Spanish, "Innovación para tu vida," the innovation is in the DNA of Bosch. This is clear. The timeline is divided into three parts. You have the past, you have the present, and you have the future. And the human being tends to concentrate on what have we been doing in the past. Let's see how we tackle the present. And we forget sometimes that the future may not be related to the past. So for me, the first aspect that we have to deal with is to create an environment where we say, everybody, please, don't tell me we have done everything like this, and this will work out. Our success in the past may be a good foundation for the future, but if we keep on doing the same things, always like we did, we will not progress. We have to create this sense of urgency in the people that things are not only changing, are changing in a faster way and in an even more unpredictable way. So I do not like this buzzword like VUCA and agile and so, but if we don't change, we will be changed. I heard once in a graduation ceremony in the baccalaureate, there are two kinds of human beings in the history. There are the ones who suffer history and the ones who shape the future. Innovation means we want to belong to the second part of mankind. So this is innovation.
Excellent start, Javier. I would like to start with a more personal question. Can you share something maybe which is not something personal, which is not so well known to the audience, and to challenge you, something maybe which you have not yet shared on LinkedIn?
Oh, thank you for giving me the possibility to be brave in the answer. No? Bosch is a great company in a lot of fields. One of them is mobility. And when I was doing my interviews for Bosch, what is your experience? I thought, oh my God, I am already working since years in mobility. You know, I come from a humble family. My father was a taxi driver. And I was driving taxi 5 years at night in Madrid to finance my studies and also to help the family. You know? And this was a great school, and also thinking on evolving as a human being, when you see how tough is to work in a systematical way, when you see how the manual task is also demanding, this gives you also a better perspective to assess when you are in a leading position, what the people where are there on the van, on the shop floor, have to deal with. So you will not find on my CV on LinkedIn, I was a taxi driver, but maybe I should actualize this.
Very interesting insight. Thank you for that. How would you define innovation, and what would you say, what's the human aspect innovation? What is important there in order to be successful in the field of innovation? What are your thoughts here?
From the human point of being, of sight is to make everybody aware that anyone has a contribution on innovation. I will put a very simple example that has to do with attitude. When in a company, everybody, from the janitor to the CEO, is necessary. The attitude of the associates in the company can make this big difference. Take this example. A man who was breaching stones was asked, "What are you doing?" And he said, the first man said, "I'm losing my life just breaking stones 10 hours a day." Mm-hmm. And they asked his colleague, and he said, "What are you doing?" "I'm helping to build the biggest cathedral that the mankind will see." So we have to bring enthusiasm to make everybody aware you are a part of a big one. Take what we have to suffer and where we still suffer in the pandemic times. I remember I spent significant time here in Madrid in the factory at Bosch all the week. And I remember a conversation with a cleaning lady who one of the measures was to increase the cleaning frequency. And we say, your job is so important as every one of us, because if this is not clean, we will not be able to do that. So let's empower everybody, irrespective of the position in the organization, to say, we need you to bring this further. And everybody can contribute to that and should.
I think that's a nice segue into the question that I was thinking about when I was thinking about why should we invite Javier to our podcast. One of the things that we see in innovation, and we often distinguish between innovation and the core business, which is often very incremental, generation 1, generation 2, but that provides the cash for all the other innovation that we also want to do, which is beyond the core business, where we have greater ambitions, AI, IoT, digital business models, etc. One of the things, though, is we have to talk about incentives. So when you want everybody to participate in innovation, to drive things forward, the question I would have for you, though, is how do you incentivize leadership to take risks beyond that core business? Because when you look at their incentives, in any corporation in the world, it's to drive revenue, EBIT, profit in the core business. And then when you want them to innovate beyond the core, take more risks, often the incentive is not there. They may talk about it, right? They may give lip service to it, but often it's sort of theatrical and there's no impact. So what I'm trying to get at is, how do you incentivize those leaders? Because under those leaders, you have these employees who are doing what you said. Maybe they're breaking the rocks, not thinking about the bigger picture that, hey, I'm actually contributing to the core, and I'm also providing the cash for the beyond the core innovation. So how do you balance that? How do you give them core business incentives, but also, hey, look beyond, take risks? How do you do that? How do you think about that as an HR, with all your deep experience in HR?
I said at the beginning of the podcast to create this sense of urgency. So we need, innovation is much more than a fancy word. We need this, or every corporation needs this to survive. We are not only in a very competitive business, in a very fast changing business, and the demography is changing, the attitude of our customers, the business model that we have. And it's to take the leadership team together and say, look, here is not the question whether we innovate or not. The main question is, will we be here in some time to be able to innovate together? So let's change the present before the future changes us. Regarding incentivization, as most of you know, since several years, Bosch has abolished the individual monetary bonus and changed this by Robert Bosch results bonus and the divisional bonus. And this brings the people to think it's not about what I can achieve alone, but what can the team or the corporation achieve as a whole. So the key success factors should be to say, we have to disrupt ourselves before we are disrupted by something else, and create, in the positive sense, this sense of urgency.
Yeah, just to follow up there. I mean, I think we're all on board, right? We need to be urgent in our thinking. We need to push forward. We need to find new businesses, right? To supplement the foundation, that this really good foundation that we already have. At the same time, we're talking about disruption or innovations beyond the core. The reward may not come for 5, 6, 7 years, right? So you may be losing money on these innovations for quite a long time in development, in the validation of the business. So how can you again, back to that question, how can you make sure that your leaders stick to those sorts of things and not just kill them when the going gets rough, right? Because right now, as you said, pandemic, cash flows are being threatened, right? So budgets are tight. How do we keep our eyes still on the ball?
Making, I would say, or we say in Spanish, breaking the elephant into pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a long-term commitment. We want to achieve this in the year 2025. Okay, this is 4 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
We have now a good example within the HR transformation of Bosch, and say, okay, we have to achieve this by 2025, but we should know, and as a leader, we should make the people aware. This is very nice, but what does this year come? What does next year come? So not only, we don't only have to look long term, but also see which is my task in this year. So help the people to understand, and also don't letting them procrastinate and say, from here to 25, we still have almost 4 years to go. No, please break the innovation elephant into pieces and say, these are the sprints that we have to do in the short term.
Mm-hmm. One of the things we've experienced, so we've run the Bosch Accelerator program all over the world, and we've had a lot of experience in the regions, right? So when you think innovation, you're often thinking, well, you got to get close to the customers, and the customers are often far away from central, far away from corporate. And you, as the president of Robert Bosch Iberia, what role do you believe the region should play in a very massive global corporation like Bosch?
We have, more than 80% of the sales of the Bosch Group are made outside of Germany. Mm-hmm. What means also that Germany is a key market for us with almost 20%. The world is not only in innovation German-centric. Sorry, or thank you for letting me say. And we have to see which different approach can enrich the business models of Bosch, but also being aware, can they be scalable? Or you said we have to speak about errors also and failures, which is, it's good to be able to cope with that. No? We invested in the smart agriculture in different parts of the world. Also, I speak here for the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, smart irrigation. And for sure, in order to see how you can irrigate olive trees, you can make no experiments in Germany, very simply because there are no olive trees, maybe in some gardens or in some botanical gardens. No? So we have to see what innovation can go from business models are not in Germany, but being always aware, is it something that we can escalate, at least in a reasonable way?
See, and I love this way of thinking, the way you put it, because a lot of good innovation for global companies happens out in those regions. And you often would call that reverse innovation. We learn how to do things cheaply, we learn how to do things for a certain market, and hopefully we can scale out to the broader market. So it's a very interesting approach to innovation when it comes to a global company.
Looking at the time, we've already come to the end of our podcast today, and it's a tradition to ask the innovation leader to do this completion exercise. Meaning, I start a sentence, and I would ask you, Javier, just to terminate this one sentence. So let's give it a try. The role of social media for a modern leader should be?
Not ignore and accelerate it.
Mm-hmm. Very nice, thank you. Iberia will play a more important role in innovation
if we can scale up from the Bosch Startup Harbor, what already began in our startup harbor here, together with our colleagues in Berlin.
Very nice. If I were starting my career again, I would
do practically the same, and being more, what I advise to the people, being even more brave, more authentic, and trying to be happy, and in a leadership position, especially making happy to those who gave all their energy 8 hours at least a day for the most part of the day.
Excellent. Javier, thank you so much.
So
it's been a pleasure to have you on our Vodcast today. So, ha sido un placer. Muchas gracias.
muchas gracias a vosotros.
Gracias.
Ciao.
Chao.